Hi, I'm Barry Garcia, product manager here for ICANN for lights and for lighting accessories, and we're going to talk a little bit about the CV600 today. So welcome to the Tech Corner. So, a little bit about the CV600. The CV600 is a color spectrometer as well as an exposure meter. It gives you all these different options that you can do, and it comes with all these little accessory pieces that we're going to talk about a little bit right now. The nice case that you see right here, as well as the charger, the mount, the holder so you can kind of throw it around your wrist or around your neck if you need to, the case, as well as the meter itself. Now, the great thing about the meter, it's small, it's compact, it's handheld. You can get out there and really get good readings with it. Now, with the CV600, when you crank this bad boy up, which we're going to do right now, turn it on. I see the little colors pop up. And then what it's going to ask you first and foremost is do you want to dark calibrate? Of course. What we're going to do is we're going to calibrate the photocell here for what we need to do before we take our measurements. So I'll put the cap back on. I'm going to click yes. There we go. And then I'm going to click OK, dark calibrate. And it's going to take maybe 1 to 2 minutes to be able to do this. Not a big deal. And then we're going to click OK. And we're ready to go. That's how fast it is. Now, I'm going to go ahead and take the cap off right there. So now we're ready to go as far as being able to take a measurement. First things first, we're going to start with a quick overview of kind of what the menus are and how kind of everything works. So we'll start with basic first. That's this guy right here. And what it's up right now is just giving your CCT, which is your correlated color temperature. I think I've got lux up there as well as TLCI, foot candles. You can pretty much choose what it is you want to do. It also gives you all your CRI, your 1 through 15, your patches, as well as some scientific information like your delta deviation, your delta ascension, your UV, and your Y, X and Y on the CIE 31 or 76, depending on what it is you want to see. So your basic list gives you the ability to change and move things around. All I have to do is touch one of the little segments there, and it gives me my whole list. I can go up or down with it down here at the bottom, and I can just choose one, and that's what's going to allow me to see on my basic list when I turn the meter on. Now, you can change this at any point depending on if you decide you want to see TLCI instead of CRI, or maybe delta ascension. Whatever you want to see, you can actually put into your basic list. So let's talk a little bit about CRI. Color rendering index, right here on the meter itself, you can actually flip to the CRI mode, right there, and it's going to show you all the different patches. The 1 through 8, which is the RA, the 9 through 15, which is the RI. You can actually drill down and see an individual patch if you want to, whether you're R9 or you're R12, depending if you want to check your reds or your blues of the fixture. It really is very helpful in figuring out how well that fixture represents color for you. So let's talk a little bit about the spectrum now. Now the spectrum, we'll bring it up real fast. Basically what it is it gives you a visual representation of what the light looks like. Obviously a visual spectrum, so to speak. It's going to tell you your eye time, which is how quick in milliseconds that you're going to get the reading, as well as it's going to tell you your delta ascension, which is the highest point in the spectrum. I believe this one looks like it's about 545 nanometers. Now, we're measuring the spectrum from 380 nanometers to 780 nanometers. That's how wide of a spectrum that the actual unit itself will take a reading in. So let's talk a little bit about CIE 31 and 76. It's right here on the meter. Just click that so we can see. Obviously, the first one that comes up is CIE 31. You're going to see the X and the Y values. What this is going to tell you basically is what your white point is, and then what some of your readings are along the black body radiator line. And it's going to give you all your information that you need, as well as your UV coordinates along this. Now, if you hit the top right up here, like this, we're going to switch over to 1976 CIE. Obviously, that's going to give you the U and V ratings along the 90 degree, and you're going to be able to see your white point on the 76 as well as those specific points in a numerical value. So let's talk a little bit about the browser. The browser allows you to basically control whatever SDHC card you're going to put inside there. Now, the nice thing about the CV600 is that you can insert an SDHC card, class 10 or so, and you can actually record the readings that you're doing. So if you're taking readings of multiple lights on set, you can actually record those readings and go back and look if you need to do a little research. Now, the other cool thing about that is you can actually save the spectrum, you can save your basic lists, you can save the CIEs if you want to. It allows you to kind of save all the different things and then put that into a chart so that you can actually figure out and examine what fixtures you're using or what fixtures you're going to use. The other thing it does is it allows you to put all this numerical value in an Excel spreadsheet. Once you take your card out, put it in your computer, you can actually open an Excel spreadsheet, and it's going to give you all the values for everything in your basic list, basically. The other thing that the meter has is it gives you some options. You can adjust your backlight, you can adjust your runtime. Say you don't want the meter to stay on all day long, you can actually do an auto shut-off. It's got storage options, it has options for battery life and what maybe the latest software you are running. So it gives you all that information in basically a quick nutshell. So let's talk filter mode. Now, the filter mode on the CV600 basically allows us to match two different colored lights together. What you're going to do is you're going to take a reading of the light you want to match, and then the mode itself is going to tell you what specific gel you should use. Now, let's talk a little bit about the different options of the gels that are available in the CV600. Now, I particularly am going to use the Rosco Cine gels because this is what I have here in-house. So, what we need to do is go to the sprocket, and then from there we're going to scroll down, and then we can actually choose which filter we want to use. I've already got set to Rosco, but you can make different choices on what you want. Kodak, you can go up to Rosco, Lee, and Fujifilm. These are all your choices that you can choose, and they have all the filter libraries in the CV600 for these. Again, I'm going to go back to Rosco because that's what I have here in-house. Yes. And now we can actually input our target number. Now, I've already done this. 3255 is where I need to be at, and I'm matching a light that is roughly going to be about 5600 degrees Kelvin. So what it's giving me right here is it's giving me the actual gel number, 34.8 at a half. Now, I know that a 34.8 at a half is a half CTO, and that basically is what this is on my Rosco gel swatch. So, gives me the information that I need. Now, some of the other information it's also giving me is it's giving me my light balance value, which is the AB. Now, it's a 146.8 amber. That's where that little red dot is right there. And then it also gives me my color correction value, which is the GM, or the 3.8, which is green. So in that little square that you see right here, you've got amber, green, blue, and cyan. So it's telling you where, in a real-time representation of that red dot, where it actually falls in the grid. So now that we know how the gel filter works on the CV600, let's go over and look at this in a practical, real-world scenario. So we're going to do a little practical experiment here with the filter version on the CV600. And we're using the filter, we're going to actually see what it is we need to do to match all these lights that we have. Veronica was nice enough to join us today, so we're going to go ahead and try to see if we can match the two 3200 degree lights that we have with the 5600 degree light. And to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use on my meter, I'm going to type in 3200 degrees Kelvin, click OK, and then I'm going to go over and take a reading on the light itself. Okay, and it's telling me I need to use the 3402, which is actually CTO, and it's a half CTO is what it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a half CTO in front of that light, and that should make everything match and be at 3200 degrees Kelvin. So Veronica, if you could hold that for me just one second. Let's go over here and put this gel up, a half CTO, slide that on. So now that we have all of our lights matching and should be 3200 degrees Kelvin all the way around Veronica here on our key, fill, and backlight. So that should basically make her look perfect for the interview we're going to set up. So that's what a real-world scenario would look like with the CV600 using the gel filter. So one of the other options here on the CV600 is the flicker option. We hit that right quick. Now, what the flicker option basically does is it lets us measure our lights to find out if they're going to flicker in the specific frame rate that we're using. It's very simple and easy to use. So what you would do right here on camera, you're going to hit that button and it's going to give you a little calculator. Now you can go to the extremes here. You can go from 1 frame per second all the way up to like 190,000 frames per second. That's what this thing will allow you to do. Now, for our purposes in the demonstration today, we're just going to do a simple 24 frames per second. That's good to go. And then we're going to take a reading real fast. So I'm going to press the button on the side here. Now, what it's doing is it's taking a bunch of little readings out of the flicker cell that's right next to the photo cell on top of the meter. Okay, here's what it's telling us. At 24 frames per second, our frequency is 120, our percentage is about 3.47, and our index is 0.01. What that all boils down to is, right there in blue, these lights pass at 24 frames per second. So there is no flicker. So one of the last things that we could talk about here on the CV600 is the exposure. Right here on the exposure, it actually allows you to show you time, as well as your F, which is your aperture, as well as time and aperture, and your exposure value itself. So on the time, you can actually make adjustments to your shutter, you can make adjustments to your ISO, you can flip over to the F, and you can make adjustments to your aperture if you want to change that. And then we can move on to TNF, and it shows us shutter and aperture, and then it's going to give you basically a lux reading every time you take a reading from that. And then lastly, if we flip over to the exposure value, this doesn't allow you to make any adjustments to it. It's just going to give you a constant reading as you click. So you can actually hit it one time, or you can hit it multiple times for multiple readings, or timed readings if you want to do that. So this is basically nothing more than an incident meter, and it's just going to give you whatever it is that you take your reading from. So, but it's kind of handy to have around if you want to do color readings, as well as just check your exposure for your camera. So really and truly, one of the last things that we should talk about is the brand new app for the CV600. It's available through Android or through the Apple Store, depending on what you want. We actually have our Apple tablet here, and we downloaded the new CV600 app. So basically I just hit the button, and then what I've got now is the basic screen is back up. Now I get all my options. I can do CIE 31 as well as 76. I've got 76 on there, then CRI, as well as I can save things, but the cool thing is I can control the unit from the tablet by using this little guy right here. It's a wing card. What it is a Wi-Fi card that inserts into the unit itself, and it allows me to use the Wi-Fi, and then I can find the Wi-Fi on my device, and then they sync up. Pretty simple, pretty easy, really. And then I can actually push the button, and take a measurement real quick. There we go. And it's basically telling me all the information that I need to know. Right now we're at 5668 on our color temperature with these lights that I'm standing under. But this allows us to be able to control the unit from far away. Now that has a number of uses that you can do with it. Again, if you're using multiple different types of lights, or you're taking different measurements for things, you can actually store the information on the tablet. You can email it out to yourself if you want to. There's a lot of different options with the new CV600 app. Well, that's about all we have for the CV600 today. If you need more information, you can always go to our website, icancorp.com. I'm Barry Garcia, and we'll see you next time on the Tech Corner.